Back with the WMAY morning news feed and some interesting statistics to pass along in Illinois' population decline. Another year, and this year we've seen an acceleration of the estimated decline in the state's population. I'm Greg Bishop. You can always reach out to me, bishoponair@gmail.com, or find me on social media. Just search out Bishop On Air, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and elsewhere. All right, so for the past decade, Illinois has seen year after year after year annual decreases in population. Now, Illinoisans fleeing the state in droves, they're possibly finding some employment elsewhere. So when you look at the estimates, it's different than the decennial census. The decennial census is what we had released this summer for the 2020 census. And that 2020 census ultimately showing that Illinois in the past decade lost a little more than 18,000 people. But a lot of questions about why is that number in the past decade so drastically different than what the estimates are? Because the estimates that have come out every year since then have been much higher. And I've got the estimate breakdown because I've been tracking this since 2014 myself, writing about all of this. And in 2014, there were 10,000 fewer Illinoisans estimated. In 2015, that accelerated to 25,000 fewer Illinoisans estimated that year alone. 2016, an estimated 38,000 fewer Illinoisans in that year alone. Then it goes to 40,000 the following year, 45,000 fewer, 51,000 fewer, 80,000 fewer last year, and this year, in July of 2020 to July of 2021, an estimated 114,000 fewer people in Illinois. And all of that adds up to more than 400,000 people in the past decade since 2014 have fled the state of Illinois. Now, yesterday, we talked with State Senator Sally Turner about some of the reasons that she sees people leaving the state, and it's high taxes, it's corruption, it's one-party rule. She said that a lot of this plays into why people do not want to stay in Illinois and why families may be looking elsewhere.
And when people look at those things, they think, do I want to raise my family here with those types of issues?
And I also talked with State Representative LaShawn Ford about this yesterday as well. And he said that, listen, if taxes are too high, and something needs to be done about that, but the state really should be looking at early education, higher education, he says. But obviously, prosperity needs to be first and foremost top of mind.
So we have to make sure that we do everything to make sure that we spend taxpayer dollars wisely. If we're overtaxing them, we need to lower those taxes.
So I reached out to Illinois Manufacturers Association President and CEO Mark Denzler as somebody who, the manufacturers they have great jobs. Average pays $80,000 a year. They're making goods all across the state and a variety of different industries, but manufacturers are a major driver of employment in the state of Illinois. But even he has seen the trends over the past year pretty alarming. So here's some of what Illinois Manufacturers Association President and CEO Mark Denzler had to share with me yesterday when I chatted with him.
Well, it's certainly a struggle to find workers in the manufacturing sector today, Greg, as we've talked about. And that's despite the fact that manufacturers on average pay about $80,000 a year in wages and benefits. More than 90% of manufacturers offer employer-funded health care. And it's still a struggle. And I would say at the start of the pandemic, the state's unemployment rate was, 3.5%, and we had that challenge. And today, the state's unemployment rate of 6% is higher than the national average, and we continue to find challenges. Greg, there are 250,000 fewer people working in Illinois today than there were at the start of the pandemic. And nationally, when you talk about manufacturing jobs, we reached an unfortunate milestone. There are more than 1 million open manufacturing jobs in the United States today. And for comparison's sake, before the pandemic, the highest number of open manufacturing jobs in the country was 437,000. So we've doubled the number of open manufacturing jobs, over the last 18 months. And when you talk about Illinois specifically, and this is not something that's just started recently, but it's a long-term trend. And pulling some numbers, in the last decade, October to October, Illinois has lost 24,000 manufacturing jobs, net manufacturing jobs. All of our neighboring states have gained manufacturing jobs at an average of 38,600. And so you have to ask the question, why are states like Iowa and Kentucky, Missouri, Wisconsin, states that have significantly smaller populations, adding manufacturing jobs, while Illinois, which is an economic engine and should be leading the charge, has lost 24,000 jobs? And it's particularly relevant when you look at Indiana, our neighbor to the east, has added 77,000 manufacturing jobs in the last decade. And so, as we've talked before, companies face the same global challenges, the same national challenges. A lot of times it's state policies that make a difference about where a company is going to locate their capital or invest their workforce. And getting kind of to your original point, we've seen in the last 2 years, July to July, we had been at 586,200 jobs in July of 2019. In July of this year, we're at 547,800. So, a loss of nearly 40,000 manufacturing jobs July to July.
And again, that's Illinois Manufacturers Association President Mark Denzler talking about some of the population decline and how it could be associated with the decline in jobs like manufacturing jobs that seem to be going to neighboring states. Now, Illinois has a lot of good things going, he says. We've got a great workforce. We're centrally located. We've got rivers. We've got water access. We've got infrastructure, highways, railways. All of these things really make for a vibrant opportunity. But he says there's other policies that are in place that limit business, including regulations on how to build things, or the cost of unemployment insurance, or the cost of workers' comp. Those are outliers compared to some of the neighboring or comparable states. But Denzler said, listen, they also were able to get some incentive programs, most recently, for electric vehicle manufacturers. And those incentive programs are likely going to bring in some more electric vehicle manufacturers. But Denzler said he'd like to get to more level playing field for all industries across the board. More from Mark Denzler from the IMA.
Well, I would love to get to a place where we don't have to pass special incentive legislation to attract and retain companies here. I mean, that would be the best of both worlds, but we can't unilaterally disarm. Illinois has a lot of disadvantages when it comes to higher costs, property taxes, workers' compensation. So the Rev Edge bill that we helped negotiate and champion, we're happy that it passed. I think it is going to have a meaningful impact. We're going to continue building the EV ecosystem in the state of Illinois, and I think we are a leader in that when you look at Rivian and Lion Electric and other suppliers. I think there's some more announcements that are coming soon. But we need to help every company that's here, whether they're large or small, whether they're manufacturing, retail, hotel, you name it. And the best way to do that is to create a strong economic infrastructure, good policies, good regulations that don't hamper growth. Because for those companies that have been here 10, 20, 50, 100 years, who continue to invest here, they're not getting any incentive for staying here. What can we do to help reduce their tax burden or reduce their regulatory burden so they can continue operating here and they don't look to go somewhere else? That's what we also need to be focused on.
Again, that was some of the conversation I had with Illinois Manufacturers Association President and CEO Mark Denzler about manufacturing jobs in relation to continued outbound migration in the state of Illinois.